Welcome to Shadow Watch, where the darkest tales claw their way out of the night. Imagine this, a forest so quiet, you hear your own heartbeat, then suddenly, a scream tears through the trees. That's the screaming woods of Georgia, a place where the air hums with dread, and her last words echo forever. Tonight, I'm dragging you deep into those woods, where something or someone waits. Ready to feel the chill crawl up your spine? Stick around, because this true story will make you question every rustle you hear outside your window. It started with Mia, a bold hiker who laughed at ghost stories, and her boyfriend Jake, a skeptic with a camera. They picked Georgia's screaming woods for a weekend thrill, a tangled mess of pines and shadows south of Atlanta. Locals swore it was cursed, said a girl vanished there in '89, leaving only screams behind. Mia didn't care. She wanted adventure. Jake wanted proof it was nonsense. But that first night, under a moonless sky, the woods turned alive, whispering, watching. What they found wasn't just a story. It was a nightmare clawing out of the earth. The trail was muddy. Their boots sank with every step, and the air grew thick, heavy with something sour. Mia joked about the ghost girl to lighten the mood, but Jake's camera flickered, its battery draining fast. They pitched their tent near an old oak, its branches twisted like fingers reaching for the sky. Around midnight, a faint hum buzzed through the trees, low at first, then sharper, like a voice trying to break free. Mia froze, her bravado gone. Jake grabbed his camera, but the lens caught nothing. Yet, the hum became words, soft, desperate. "Help me, they're still here." That's when the screams began, shrill, endless, ripping through the silence. Mia's eyes widened. Jake dropped the camera, and the woods swallowed their laughter whole. Something moved in the dark, fast, close, brushing past the tent. They weren't alone anymore, and whatever it wasn't done with them yet. The temperature dropped, a chill slicing through their thin jackets, as the screams grew louder, closer, circling them. Mia whispered, "Did you hear that?" But Jake shook his head, denying what his ears couldn't ignore. The tent shook, not from wind, but from something pressing against it, testing its walls. They held their breath, hearts pounding, waiting for it to pass, but it didn't. A shadow stretched across the nylon, tall, thin, impossibly still, like it was staring inside. Mia grabbed Jake's arm, her nails digging in, and he fumbled for his knife, hands trembling. The hum returned, weaving through the screams, forming broken sentences. "Don't leave me. They won't let me go." Jake cursed under his breath. This isn't real. But the woods disagreed, the ground rumbling beneath them. They decided to run, tearing the tent open, tripping over roots in the dark, but the woods wouldn't let them go so easily. The path twisted, the trees seemed to shift, closing in, trapping them deeper inside. Mia's flashlight flickered, its beam catching glimpses of something darting between the pines. Pale, fast, too fast to be human. Jake yelled, "Keep moving," but his voice cracked, fear seeping through his bravado. The screams followed, relentless, a chorus of agony that drowned out their footsteps. Then, silence, sudden, heavy, suffocating. They stopped, panting, scanning the dark, but the woods held its breath too. A twig snapped behind them, sharp, deliberate, and Mia spun around, her light landing on a figure in the distance, standing still, watching. Its head tilted, unnatural, wrong, and the hum started again, louder, angrier. "You shouldn't have come." That's when the ground gave way, a sinkhole swallowing their footing, pulling them down into damp earth and roots. Mia clawed at the dirt, screaming Jake's name, but he was gone, yanked deeper by something unseen. She scrambled out, alone, covered in mud, the woods laughing through the wind. The figure was closer now, its eyes hollow, its mouth stretched wide, whispering her name. This wasn't just a hike anymore. This was a trap, and the screaming woods had claimed another soul. Stay with me, because this is only the beginning of what they unleashed in those cursed pines. Mia stood trembling, mud caked on her hands, the silence pressing down like a weight on her chest. Jake was gone, swallowed by the sinkhole, and the woods mocked her with their stillness, daring her to move. She whispered his name, her voice cracking, but only the wind answered, carrying a faint, Mia, run. From somewhere deep below. Her flashlight flickered, its weak beam catching the figure again. Closer now, its hollow eyes locked on her, its mouth twitching into a grin. She stumbled back, heart racing, as the ground pulsed beneath her feet, alive, angry, hungry for more. The air thickened, a sour stench rising from the earth, and the hum returned, sharper, splitting into voices, dozens, hundreds, screaming, begging, cursing. Mia clutched her ears, but the sound burrowed inside. They took us, they'll take you too. She ran, branches clawing at her face, tearing her jacket, but the woods twisted, the path looping back to the same cursed oak. The figure was there, waiting, its pale hand outstretched, fingers long and bent, beckoning her closer. She froze, breath hitching, as it whispered her name again, soft, intimate, like it knew her soul. Then the screams erupted, not from the figure, but from the trees themselves, high-pitched, raw, a chorus of the lost echoing through the pines. Mia's flashlight died, plunging her into darkness, and something cold brushed her ankle, wrapping tight, pulling. She kicked free, scrambling toward a faint glow ahead, a clearing she hadn't seen before. The light pulsed, unnatural, green, and in its center stood a girl, young, pale, her dress torn, her eyes wide with terror. She looked straight at Mia and screamed, "They're coming!" before vanishing into thin air. Mia's legs buckled, her mind reeling, but the ground shook again, splitting open, revealing bones, human bones, piled in the dirt, skulls grinning up at her. The voices roared, "You can't leave, you're ours now." And the figure lunged, its grin splitting wider, teeth jagged and black. She dodged, rolling down a slope, crashing into a stream, the icy water snapping her awake. But the water wasn't still. It moved against the current, coiling around her wrists, dragging her under. She clawed at the surface, gasping, as faces formed in the ripples, pale, eyeless, screaming her name in unison. She broke free, crawling onto the bank, soaked and shivering, but the woods weren't done playing their game. Footsteps crunched behind her, slow, deliberate, and a shadow loomed, tall and twisted, its voice rasping. "You saw her, didn't you?" Mia turned, and there it was, not the girl, not the figure, but Jake, his face pale, his eyes gone, blood dripping from his mouth. He grinned. "I tried to warn you," and reached for her with hands that weren't his anymore, gnarled and claw-like. Mia screamed, bolting into the dark, but the woods laughed louder, the screams blending with her own. The clearing flickered back into view, the green light pulsing faster, and the girl reappeared, her voice breaking. "They never let go, they keep us here." Mia staggered toward her, desperate for answers, but the ground erupted again, roots shooting up, wrapping her legs, pinning her down. The figure emerged from the shadows, its grin now a gaping maw, and behind it, more shapes, dozens, hundreds, crawling from the earth, their screams deafening. Mia's vision blurred, her strength fading, as the girl's last words burned into her mind. "You're one of us now." The woods had won, and the nightmare was just beginning to tighten its grip. Mia thrashed against the roots, their grip tightening, cutting into her skin as the figures closed in, their hollow eyes glinting in the green glow. The girl's voice echoed, faint, broken. "They feed on fear. They've been waiting for you." Mia's screams mixed with theirs, a symphony of terror, but she yanked a knife from her boot, slashing wildly, severing the roots. They recoiled, hissing like living things, and she stumbled free, running blind, the woods spinning around her. The figures followed, their footsteps a drumbeat of doom, their whispers clawing at her sanity. She tripped, crashing into a hollow tree, its bark slick with something dark, blood, old and thick, staining her hands. Inside, a faint scratching grew louder, frantic, and a hand burst out, skeletal, clawing the air. Mia jerked back, but the hand grabbed her wrist, pulling her toward the trunk, a voice rasping, "Stay with us." She stabbed it, the blade sinking deep, and the hand retreated, leaving a trail of black ooze. The tree shuddered, splitting open, spilling bones and tattered cloth, remnants of the lost, their screams pouring out like a flood. The green light flared, blinding her, and the girl appeared again, closer, her face half rotted, her voice trembling. I was like you. I ran too. Mia stared, horrified, as the girl's flesh peeled away, revealing bone, her eyes sinking into sockets. They caught me, she whispered, in '89, when the woods woke up. The figures surged forward, their forms shifting, some human, some not, clawing the ground, their mouths stretched wide, screaming her name. Mia bolted, the knife slipping from her bloody hand, her lungs burning as the air turned to ice. A cabin loomed ahead, rotting, its windows black, its door hanging off hinges. She dove inside, slamming it shut, barricading it with a chair, her breath ragged. The scream stopped, replaced by silence, too perfect, too wrong. Then, a knock, slow, deliberate, shaking the walls. Mia backed away, her heart hammering, as the knock became a pound, the door splintering. A voice hissed through the cracks, "You can't hide, Mia." And the windows shattered, glass raining down, shadows pouring in like smoke. She grabbed a rusty axe from the floor, swinging at the darkness, but it swallowed her blows, laughing. The girl flickered into the room, her form fading, her voice urgent. It's not them. It's the woods. They're alive. The floor buckled, boards snapping upward, revealing roots that pulsed red, veins of the forest reaching for her. Mia hacked at them, blood like sap spraying her face, but they kept coming, wrapping her ankles, dragging her down. She fell, the axe clattering away, and the shadows solidified, Jake among them, his grin wider, his voice warped. We're all here. Mia, join us. She clawed the floor, nails breaking, as the roots pulled harder, the screams rising again, deafening. The cabin groaned, walls collapsing inward, and the green light flooded everything, searing her eyes. The girl's voice cut through. They tricked me. Don't let them trick you. Mia spotted a trapdoor, half hidden under debris, and lunged for it, prying it open with bloody fingers. She dropped into darkness, landing hard on damp earth, the screams muffled above. But the air down here was worse, rotten, alive, and something moved, slithering in the shadows. A whisper slithered back, "You're deeper now," and the trapdoor slammed shut, locking her in with whatever waited below. The woods weren't just haunted, they were a predator, and Mia was its prey. Mia's breath hitched, the damp air choking her as the slithering grew louder, closer, coiling around her in the dark. She clawed the dirt walls, nails snapping, searching for escape, but the tunnel pulsed, wet and warm, like the belly of a beast swallowing her whole. A hiss echoed, low, guttural, and her foot slipped on something soft, flesh, rotting, a hand reaching up, gripping her ankle with icy fingers. She screamed, kicking free, but more hands erupted from the ground, skeletal, clawing, dragging her down into the muck, their whispers frantic. Stay, stay, stay. Light flared, faint, red, from deeper in the tunnel, and Mia crawled toward it, desperation fueling her, the hands tearing at her legs. The glow revealed a chamber, vast, its walls dripping with sap, blood red, pulsing like veins, and in the center, a tree, gnarled, black, its roots sprawling, alive, throbbing. Hanging from its branches were bodies, dozens, their faces frozen in screams, eyes wide, staring at her. Jake among them, his mouth moving. You can't leave. The girl flickered beside him, her voice cracking. It's the heart, it keeps us. As roots shot from the tree, lashing at Mia. She dodged, rolling into the dirt, but the roots were faster, wrapping her waist, lifting her high, squeezing the air from her lungs. The tree groaned, splitting open, revealing a maw, teeth jagged, dripping with sap, ready to devour her. The voices screamed louder, feed it, and Mia thrashed, her hands finding a shard of bone, sharp, jagged. She stabbed the root, black blood spraying, and it shrieked, loosening its grip. She fell, hitting the ground hard, the chamber shaking, the bodies swaying, their screams turning to laughter, high, manic, unhinged. The girl lunged at her, no longer a victim but a puppet, her eyes black, her grin wide. You're too late. Roots burst from her chest, aiming for Mia's throat, but Mia swung the bone shard, slicing through, the girl collapsing into dust. The tree roared, its maw widening, sucking the air, pulling everything toward it. Bones, dirt, bodies, a vortex of death. Mia ran, the tunnel collapsing behind her, hands grabbing, roots snapping, the laughter deafening. She saw daylight, faint, above, and clawed upward, dirt raining down, burying her alive. Her hand broke through, grasping grass, and she hauled herself out, gasping, the woods eerily still around her. The hole sealed shut, the ground smooth, like nothing happened, but her reflection in a puddle showed her eyes, hollow, black, like theirs. The hum started again, inside her skull. "You're ours," and she stumbled forward, the screams echoing in her mind, not the woods. She wasn't free, she was theirs now, a vessel, a warning, her last words lost to the pines. The screaming woods didn't just take lives, it claimed souls, and Mia's was the latest in its endless hunger. So, that's the tale, folks. George's Screaming Woods, where Mia and Jake learned the hard way. Some places don't let go. Did it chill you? Hit that like button if you're still breathing, and drop a comment. Ever heard screams in the dark? Subscribe for more, because Shadow Watch thrives on your nightmares. Not scared yet? Share this with a friend and watch them squirm. Or don't, if you're too chicken to face the next twisted tale. See you in the shadows, if you dare.